I remember the reaction on the faces of my classmates and people who knew me from school. And I think for the most part, they didn't know how to process it. My name is Korede Aziz. I'm a Muslim from the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria. I was born in Lagos State, also a Yoruba state in Western Nigeria. But when I was 2 years old, I moved to Enugu State with my family. If you're a Nigerian, you know that Enugu State is in the eastern part of Nigeria, where we have predominantly the Igbo tribe. There are 3 major tribes in Nigeria: the Hausas in the north, the Yorubas in the west, and the Igbos in the east. Most Hausas are believed to be Muslims, most Igbos are Christian, and with Yorubas it's kind of half and half. You even have families where about half of the family members are Christian while the rest are Muslim. My dad was in the military, and it wasn't unusual for them to transfer him every couple of years. I was 2 years old when my father was transferred to Enugu State. And when my father was transferred out of Enugu again, my mom said, you know what? I'm not moving. I am staying right here. So that's how come I ended up spending 2 decades in Enugu. We were one of the very few Yoruba Muslims in Enugu State, a state where we had mostly Igbo Christians. Nursery school, primary school, secondary school, even my university, I did all of that in Enugu State, and usually I was the only Muslim and the only Yoruba person in class. So that's what I mean when I say I grew up a minority. There was hardly anyone else like me around me. The first time I had a classmate who was also Yoruba was in SS1, I believe. Yeah. And the funny thing is, he had a Muslim sounding name, so I was a bit disappointed when I found out that he wasn't a Muslim, but that's fine. He was the only other Yoruba person in class, but you know, I was still the only Muslim. Throughout secondary school, I never really had very close friends. I mean, I had classmates I would walk to school with and walk back home with. I had 2 close friends in my last 2 years of secondary school, but that was that. In many of the relationships I had with my classmates and with friends, religion was always a thing. It always felt like this barrier that separated us, so I never really felt like I was one of them, one of the others, one of these guys that I hang with. It's natural for humans to want to be like the people around them. We want to have this feeling of community and togetherness. We don't want to be too different from most people around us. And there are times when I would actually feel that way and feel like, oh yeah, I've got my tribe. But before long, I'll realize again that yeah, this isn't exactly my tribe. And I think my relationship with sports reflected this a lot. I mean, there were people in my class who did running, they did football, they did volleyball, and I tried all of these things. Let's just cut the long story short. I am terrible with sports, most sports. I'm not bad at golf, like amateur golf. But yeah, I did a bit of running, it didn't work out. I played football, it didn't work out. I think I tried basketball. Probably a disaster. It wasn't until I tried cheerleading and dance that I really found my thing. I know, you might think cheerleading is not a sport, but it is a sport. I was into competitive cheerleading. And for the first time ever, it felt like I had finally found my thing, because this was something that I was good at. It was something that I was enjoying. And I think one of the best things about it was I finally found my tribe. Cheerleading made me feel like I was an outsider in a squad. It felt good. It felt really, really, really good to finally be part of something, you know, and share something in common with other people who had a similar passion and a similar talent. So yeah. But I realized that I'm never really going to be like these people when a classmate of mine made a nasty comment about Muslims. I don't remember exactly what she said, and I think it's probably a good thing that I don't remember. But I do remember how I felt. And yeah, it was horrible. It was awful. She apologized right after, but the damage had been done. And it was like, it was at that moment that it sort of dawned on me that no matter what, I was always going to be other, someone other than them. It must have been around that time that I was learning a lot about Islam. I was reading books, I was reading Islamic websites, I was watching Islam TV, just learning and consuming a lot of content about Islam. And that was enough to a great extent to just take my mind away from all of that negativity, and focus it on something more productive, something that was good for me. Islam for me came as, it was almost like a beacon of light, at that point in my life. So I immersed myself entirely in it. This was towards the end of secondary school. But then again, I was very aware of my place in the grand scheme of things. I was an outsider, and all that was left was for me to accept it and deal with it. So whenever I went out of the house, the few times I went out of the house, I would wear a scarf. But I had not started covering my hair, wearing hijab, like this. After that period, a period of about 2 months, maybe 3 months, I don't remember exactly how long, we had a reunion. It was supposed to be like an alumni meeting or something like that at my school. And I decided that that day I was going to go out wearing hijab like this. It was one of the toughest, but definitely one of the best decisions I could have made. I mean, I think at that point I was feeling just really inspired by, the whole hijab thing. Like, oh my, I really want to do this. I really want to start wearing hijab. But there was this fear and anxiety and all these crazy feelings, going out like this for the first time. Usually I walked to school because my school wasn't too far from the house. So on this day, I was going to walk to school as well. And I was thinking about all the people who knew me, who were going to see me on the way to school in this thing that they've never seen me in before. It was nerve-wracking. I mean, I don't know how long I stood in front of the mirror, rapping and re-rapping. I'd watched YouTube videos, Islam channel, seeing how to wrap a hijab and stuff. Yeah. But somehow I did it. I pushed past that fear and I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this. It was probably the longest walk of my life. I mean, with every step, my heart was thumping. My hands were sweaty. I could feel every glance. I could hear every breath I was taking. It was a difficult thing to do. And I remember the reaction on the faces of my classmates and people who knew me from school. And I think for the most part, they didn't know how to process it. They were probably stunned. I mean, this was someone they had seen just a couple of weeks ago in a short dress and box braids and high heels. And, this was me. That day, I think I was wearing plain trousers, not quite palazzos, but like corporate formal trousers and a long sleeve white t-shirt and this hijab thing. And throughout the time I was at the get-together, I was freaking nervous. I just sat there. You know how it is sometimes when you're in that kind of situation. Of course, I was the only one in hijab in that place. And I was just wondering, oh my God, everybody that looks at me is going to be thinking, what is this thing on her head? But by the end of that day, it felt like I had won a war. That day was all I needed. It was just what I needed, the push I needed, to finally allow myself to be myself. It might sound weird, but it almost felt like, even though I was feeling all of this pressure and anxiety and fear, it almost felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, because I was deciding for myself who I wanted to be, not caring or not thinking too much or not minding what other people think, and not trying to be like everyone else, you know, just because I want to blend in. You know, and I hate to make it sound like a them versus me thing, but a lot of times when you are an outsider or when you're different from everyone else around you, it does feel like that. It does feel like that. That being said, as different as I was from everyone else, there were still, people were mostly kind to me. I mean, there were a few jerks here and there, but people were mostly kind to me. I stood out like a sore thumb because, I mean, I literally never saw anyone else in hijab most of the time in Enugu. Like I wouldn't randomly say I was going to the mall or somewhere and I would just randomly see someone wearing hijab. It just didn't happen. Maybe it happened once or twice, I don't know, I don't remember, but yeah. That was just how it was. Yes, it was awkward, it was weird, it was scary at first, but every time I wore my hijab out, it became a little easier. Up to the point where I became confident in my hijab, confident with my decision to wear this thing around my head. And it felt so good knowing that I did not need the acceptance of strangers who would never even consider me to be like them, even if I dressed like them or spoke their language. The fact that they knew that I was Muslim and Yoruba was enough for them to cast me aside like an outsider. But even then, a lot of times when people ask me, oh, where are you from? I say I'm from Enugu because Enugu is my hometown. It's where I grew up. It's what I know, right? I mean, yes, my official documents say Oyo State, Ibadan, because that's where my father is from. But I feel more at home when I go to Enugu than when I go to Oyo. Yes, I might have been a weirdo, and yes, I might have been alone. But alone feels strong. I think one thing I've learned from that whole period in my life is you decide who you want to be. You shouldn't let society or anyone else around you decide who you should be or who you are. You decide who you want to be. You decide who you are. And you go be that person. If you watched until this point, thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can get more videos like this. Toodles!